Let's talk about the axis of justice that you have along with Serge Tankian. When did it start? And more importantly, why did it start?
Axis of Justice began almost 10 years ago now. It was in 2000 when Serge's band, System of a Down, and my band at the time, Audioslave, were going to perform on Ozfest. And the year before, I had been to the San Bernardino Ozfest and was appalled by the number of white power tattoos and Nazi tattoos. I saw people flying very comfortably at the show. When on the main stage, there wasn't one act all day long that didn't have at least one non-white member in it. And I just thought, this is my music too. Like, what the fuck? Like, are you kidding me? Like, that's just not okay. So Serge and I talked about it, and the next year, System and Audioslave were set to play a show. I said, we need to have a presence on the concourse, amidst the skull, bracelets and whatnot, an anti-racist presence. So we put together an organization called Axis of Justice, and we had attended each one of those shows, and it gained momentum from there. It grew from this one tent on one tour, promoting human rights and anti-racism, to a radio show on KPFK, to a website, axisofjustice.org. And we found that the premise was to take progressive-minded musicians, fans of music, and local grassroots organizations, and bring them all together. Because kids, since the first Rage Against the Machine show, people have been asking me, how can I get involved? What can I do to help? And I have a lot of sympathy for that, because I grew up in a tiny suburb of Chicago where I had ideas and feelings that this wasn't right. What do I do about it? And so by going to axisofjustice.org, there's like a watering hole. If you're interested in this issue and you live in Pittsburgh, you're 2 clicks away from finding a local organization that we endorse.
Great. Is activism for young people different now than it was when you were a young person wanting to get involved?
That's a good question. I can't really look at it from the same perspective as at 44 now. What high school kids I think, but I mean, during the issues during my time were Cold War issues in a way. It was the U.S. support for brutal dictatorships in Central America and for support of apartheid, and I just thought. And the IRA hunger strikers were another thing. Like, that was sort of my moment when I made a personal commitment to social justice. It was during when Bobby Sands was dying.
I'm about to say Bobby Sands.
Yeah. There were kids in my high school who were starving themselves to make the wrestling team, and here was someone who was literally starving themselves because of an idea, And so I'm not, I see at every one of my shows, there are young people who seem very, very committed to ideas of social justice and to making the world better. And I think that's that sort of energy always comes from youth. And that's why, in Axis of Justice, we really try to sort of foment that, to stir up unrest among the children.
Right. And I would see one of the main differences between, like, when you were young and wanting to get involved and now is the internet, where you just said a moment ago, 2 clicks away.
Yeah.
You're in Erie, Pennsylvania, you want to help out, you can go right there, and hopefully that kid steams down there the next afternoon and said, "I'm ready to do whatever."
Yeah,
it is.
Exactly.
But back in those old days of the last century, when a fax machine was a newfangled thing, it's amazing how technology has helped, and even in the last several years, it's just investigative journalism online. People who can now go, "Oh no, you don't." Aha, and all kinds of great pages, which I go to all the time, you go to. Yeah. I think now more than ever, young people who can access, like, Axis of Justice or go to whatever website, they can become more involved. And it's my hope that it is these young people. That's why at the end of every year, I'm angrier than I was the year before about what's going on. I'm also more optimistic. I really have a lot of faith in these young people that they do want to. They are seeing it. They are getting involved. They're going to your website. They're going to something like Amnesty International and saying, like, "Damn it, I'm ready."
Yeah.
And the fact that they can be a click away, I think, is really encouraging.
And there's a demystification as well. I mean, before it was you got what you were given on the nightly news, unless you maybe heard a Clash record. And those were sort of the... now it's like...
Joe Strummer was kind of one of my early guys making questions.
Exactly. I mean, I could trust him much more than I could, Dan Rather. And but now, like, with everyone's cell phone is a news reporter. And you can't... It's harder to hide the misdeeds than it once was. And I think that's a positive thing.